All righty.
We need that camera.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, you can go ahead and turn that on for us. All righty.
I don't know if it's going on. Do I have buttons to push?
Yeah, just push the button. There you go. Excellent. Okay, let's see what we got going on here. All righty, let's see if we can get things going. We're live on air. Welcome everybody to Gnostic Watch Weekly. And we've got a lot going on tonight. And if you have a comment, email us at mail@ttanc.com. We've got our email right up here if you'd like to chime in. And you can also tweet us at Tank Talk. That's TANC at TANC Talk. Well, we've got a lot to cover tonight.
But to answer a question that a friend wanted to know, what does TANC stand for? It's the truth about New Calvinism.
Right.
TANC. Truth about New Calvinism.
Truth about New Calvinism, and TTANC is the truth about New Calvinism.
And if you see the logo on his shirt, the cross is the truth about New Calvinism.
Yep, and that is the name of our nonprofit LLC, TTANC LLC, which is a nonprofit LLC.
Which is also the truth about the new Christianity that is permeating the churches.
True.
So.
Now, we've got a lot to cover tonight, and the first thing we'll shortly speak of is, and this is kind of on topic tonight, Ken Silva, the author of Uprising Ministries and Christian Research Network, has died. Apparently he was struggling with an illness for some 10 years and finally succumbed to it. So Ken was my age, a year older, and the Christian Research Network has a lot of authors and whatnot. I don't exactly know what's going to happen to his Uprising Ministries, but at any rate, we're getting older, no promises, and that's why we've done a lot of rearranging of Paul's Passing Thoughts here recently, to where if something did happen to me, Paul's Passing Thoughts will continue to go on under some people that are doing a great job. One thing that we want to talk about tonight is we do want to add some authors to Paul's Passing Thoughts. I'm going to talk to Pearl about contacting Andy about being added on as one of the formal contributing authors. Basically, my goal is to have 2 or 3 contributing authors to Paul's Passing Thoughts in the other blogs. So, you know, if something did happen to me, Paul's Passing Thoughts would carry forward without a hiccup. Thanks to Pearl for the wonderful job that she's doing, and somehow is not frustrated, seemingly, at all by my, well, I change my mind quite a bit, get a few different ideas here and there, and decide to take some different directions. But our ministry is still in the project testing stage to a lot of degree. Okay, well, we will be discussing Christian Research Network again tonight. And we, of course, our thoughts are with Ken Silva's family and in our busy schedules. I know that they have a lot of people praying for him, but in our busy schedules, if we think about it, let's go ahead and add in some prayers for his family. And now, where do we want to start tonight? We have a bunch of stuff, and I realized that we were going to dig into the Heidelberg Disputation tonight. But I received so many emails and so much information about kind of the same thing. And so we did decide the delving into the Heidelberg Disputation is, it's all right for that to be filler, okay? But we did say that this was going to be input driven as far as people around the world sending us stuff. So hark, we've received a lot of stuff this week. Now let's start with Andy's discourse, I guess you could call it, with a post that was posted on his Facebook page. Apparently, after ministering with us for a year or so, he still has friends, apparently. That's good, okay? So,
because we've lost most of ours.
yeah. So basically, somebody posted, a Julie Fitzpatrick posted something by Elise Fitzpatrick. And if anybody watching us online wants to look at this close up and personal, go to the post, which shouldn't be too far from the marquee on Paul's Passing Thoughts homepage. It's Elise Fitzpatrick, under the law of sin and death and proud of it, parts 1, 2, and 3. Now, what I am going to do, okay, what I am going to do is I have got to write some kind of pamphlet or booklet, and I don't know how I'm going to do it or how I'm going to present it, but I'm going to have to write some kind of booklet or pamphlet that outlines and documents this discourse, because this is classic. Okay, Elise Fitzpatrick says the following: "You're wrong if you think that you're wrong if you think that adding more rules will make people more moral. Rules never produce love. Rules never produce love. The truth is that our sinful passions are aroused by the law." Now, note, the truth is that our, okay, presumably Christians, sinful passions are, present tense, aroused by the law, okay? As long as, okay, now, the truth is that our sinful passions are, we Christians are, present tense, passions are aroused by the law. Clearly in the book of Romans, as we have studied many times, that is the definition and the state of being of an unregenerate person, because sin resides in them and is alive and is still a master. Sin in them uses God's law to provoke the person to sin with evil desires. And what we want to do, I keep saying this, we want to think of sin as something in us that in the unbeliever is a master. Okay? Now, so that's pretty, okay. She's describing us Christians the way the Apostle Paul described an unbeliever. But here we go, her next words. As long as we see it as a way to merit God's love or avoid his curse. Twist. Oh, see, she's just saying that if we see the law as a way to be justified before God, okay, we're cursed. Okay. Here's the problem. And here's the problem. If at any time as a Christian you see the law in that way, you're believing a false gospel. Okay? So she's making it possible for the Christian to believe a false gospel. Okay? But it's very nuanced. Most people are going to look at this and say, well, see, she's saying that as Christians, we want to make sure we have a right perspective of the law. Okay? She goes on. We are now released from the law. Oh, see, Paul, she says it right there. We're released from the law. Okay? We're released from the law and are able to serve the new way of the Spirit. See, Paul? Okay? And not in the way of the written code. Okay? But see what she's doing here, that all sounds good, but now she's taking it down to only one law. Okay? And when she says we are now released from the law, she's only considering one law. Okay? And now we're able to, quote, serve in the new way of the Spirit. But this is key. When she says serve in the new way of the Spirit, okay, serve in the new way of the Spirit, she's talking about serving without the law. Okay? This is very nuanced, very wicked, okay, very sly. Okay, this is key. The service she is talking to is apart from the law. Okay, so there's only one law and one perspective on the law, whether you're lost or you're saved. But Andy does a much better job than I do in answering this. Okay. So here's Andy's answer to this, okay? Here's Andy's answer to this. That is true for unbelievers who are still enslaved under the law of sin and death. But Paul spoke in Romans of believers having a new relationship to the law, the one she doesn't talk about, by the way, the law of the Spirit of life, which is the law that we obey for love. Whereby, Andy says, whereby we are free to obey the law in love. Well put. The above kind of teaching is where Calvinists reveal themselves to believe that Christians are still under the law of sin and death. Okay? True, because they're only looking at one. There's a single perspective on the law for both lost people and saved people. That's what makes it a false gospel. Okay? Now, that was pretty good, but the lady answers. Okay? The lady answers and really gives Andy more opportunity to really nail this down for us. Yeah. She answers the lady that posted it, this Julie Fitzpatrick, any relation to at least Fitzpatrick? Don't know. I believe, she says, I believe that is what this quote is saying, that we are free from the law, talking about the new relationship we have in Christ after we are saved, where we are walking in the Spirit and no longer under the law, but under grace. Other than your last sentence, it seems you and Elise Fitzpatrick agree. She says other than the last sentence. Okay. However, in the same way, this Julie Fitzpatrick, she says, where we are walking, we're walking in the Spirit and no longer under law, but under grace. Again, this Julie is also excluding any kind of law for the Christian. Okay?
No longer under the law, but we are under the law.
The law of love.
The law of love.
Okay? Again, Romans 8:2 is key here. The unregenerate are under the law of sin and death. That's the same law that Elise Fitzpatrick is talking about, that arouses our passions to sin. Because the sin in us is still alive, and that person has not died with Christ and been resurrected to new life. Now, the other law, nomos, is the law of the Spirit of life. The law of the Spirit of life. Again, the word there is nomos. It's a law, okay? A written standard, okay? So basically, let me put it simply. When we're under grace, we're also under the law of the Spirit of life. Under grace doesn't mean that we're under a law. Now, this is key. This makes the whole Bible fit together, because in like the second chapter of the book of Romans, first or second chapter, you've got Paul saying it's not those who only hear the law, but it's in the same spirit of James says it's the doers of the law that are justified. So you read that and you go, well, you're killing me, Paul. Which is it? In all of the rest of the book of Romans, you say that we're not justified by the law. And now you're saying that we're justified by the law. Two different laws. Okay? Two different laws. It makes the whole Bible fit together. There is a sense in that if we're new creatures, okay, we're going to show ourselves justified by keeping the law. Not the law of sin and death for justification. We're keeping the law of the Spirit of life that reveals us as justified. Okay? A duck isn't earning its duckness by waddling like a duck. It's a duck. Okay? It's waddling like a duck because it's a duck. It's not trying to earn its duckness. Does that make sense? Okay. So here's how Andy answers her. He says, the phrase that sticks out is, quote, as long as we see it as a way to merit God's love or avoid his curse. This is the line that gives her away. Who is the we she is talking about? If she is referring to unbelievers, then that is true. But more than likely, she means we believers, since I assume that is who her audience is. The New Testament teaches over and over that we can and do show our love to God and merit reward, not the same as salvation, but crowns at the Bema, amen, by obeying his commandments. This is because as believers, the law has been ended as the standard for justification, okay? Therefore, we are now free to aggressively pursue because the law can no longer judge us or condemn us. But Elise's statement indicates that she believes Christians are still under the law and in danger of condemnation if they attempt to keep it. This is a blatant false teaching. Okay? Now, going on to part 3, okay? She answers, I respectfully disagree, Andy. She is saying that the law can't help us earn God's merit or avoid his curse, because as she accurately states, we are released from the law. Okay? But again, we're released from law A, and now we're under law B. You see how this lady constantly fails to make that distinction. Okay? So Andy answers, but do you see that she has made the assumption that Christians are still in need of avoiding the curse? Okay? Whatever that is. If we are, quote, released from the law, then why is there still a need for Christians to avoid God's curse? Right? And he continues, that is my point of contention. Romans 12:1, quote, there is therefore now no condemnation. As justified believers, the law can no longer condemn. There is no curse to avoid. Let me repeat that. There is no curse to avoid. Yes, parentheses here, my uncertains. Why is Elise Fitzpatrick saying that there is a curse for Christians to avoid? There is no curse for Christians to avoid. Okay? There's no fear of condemnation, only a joyful seeking to obey and please God. And it is in this way, striving to keep God's commandments, that we please him and show him love. John 14:15, which says, if you love me, if you keep me. And if you really want to nail down what Andy is saying here, read Romans 8:1 through like verse 17. What he's saying here is really nailed down by the Apostle Paul. Andy continues, I'm not trying to get contentious with you here, Julie, and I don't necessarily expect you to give an answer, but we should at least be able to spot this kind of doublespeak and be asking these kinds of questions. These people are depending on the idea that most people are going to assume that they are speaking against work salvation. And this is where they are clever with their wordsmithing. So true. However, they truly believe that justification is a progressive work and that believers are in need of daily rejustification. Let me insert something. Calvin says that point blank all over the Calvin Institutes. And this is why James White or none of these other MacArthurs will debate me publicly, because they know I'm going to get in front of everybody, open up the Calvin Institutes and read right where Calvin says this in no uncertain terms right out of the Calvin Institutes. And if you want to get online and buy a book written by me entitled It's Not About Election, okay? It's a little booklet, 60 pages. I document most of these citations that I'm talking about, okay? And if you can't afford the book, email me at mail@ttanc.com and I'll give it to you, okay? So Andy goes on and puts a little addendum here. I'm not trying to be, we're down there. He says, however, they truly believe that justification is a progressive work and that believers are in need of a daily rejustification, which is why you always hear them railing against believers trying to keep the law. Because in their theology, if justification is not finished, okay, but instead progressive, then believers would still be in danger of the curse. Their theology makes no distinction between justification and sanctification. Believers are always addressed in justification terms. I have got to write a booklet or a pamphlet that documents this extent change. I've got to, okay, because this really nails it down in real life.
Okay, this is why, if you go back to Elise's first line here, if you think that adding more rules will make people more moral, you're wrong. Rules never produce love. And in a way, she's right. This is the emptiness of Calvinism, because they spend all of their energy in the justification area of their theology, and they do not promote, teach, or show believers, particularly young people, how to live in the kingdom, how to be a kingdom citizen, how to live the sanctified life, how to live this the law of love, the law of liberty, and how to look at the law in a different way. That they're not doing it as a work salvation, but they're doing it, they are obeying it and loving to obey it because they're kingdom citizens. Because if you look in Psalms, what did David say? Oh, how I love your law. Oh, how I love to keep your law. Your law is better than wine. It's better than the honeycomb to my soul. I thirst for it, on and on. But you know, the new Calvinists, who are really the old Calvinists, but the new Calvinists don't teach how to thirst after this word, because you're having to continually be justified all the time. They don't move you forward into that kingdom living to have you hunger and thirst after the sanctified love of the word, because Christ said, if you love me, you will keep my commandments.
Yeah, and basically there's no life in the institutional church. There's no life in the church. And when we say church, we mean institutional church. We're talking about the church that started in 4 AD. For the first 300 years after Pentecost or thereabouts, there was a totally other assembly. We refer to who we are as the assembly of Christ. Okay. We call who we are home fellowships. Okay. Church is not a biblical word, but it is an apt word for the institutional church. It's who they are. This is what we need to remember, that you do, in fact, produce love by walking in the law of the Spirit of love. Through obeying the law of the Spirit, you do produce love. To obey God for your sake is love. Jesus said, as much as you did it to one of these, you did it to me. Well, what did I do? Probably obeyed a commandment. Okay? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Okay? Be patient with people. Be slow to answer. Be good listeners. Those are all acts of obedience that are love. Obedience does produce love. So what Calvinism has done, really Protestantism in general, what it has done, it's to suck the life out of Christians by keeping them at the foot of the cross. The focus is making sure that you stand in the judgment. And in Volume 2 of The Truth About New Calvinism, we're going to be hunkering down on this whole relationship between Reformed theology and Seventh-day Adventism, because Seventh-day Adventism has always been predicated by this standing in the judgment business. Okay? We will be discussing a book written by the Australian Forum, Reformed theologian Jeffrey Paxton, called The Awakening or something like that. So it does those two things. Okay. It keeps us at the foot of the cross, so there's no going forward. Our focus is on making sure we stand in this judgment. there's one final judgment after one final resurrection. Okay. And secondly, keeping the law as a matter of love is horrendously devalued. Now, keep in mind, Jesus, again and again, I keep bringing this up, Jesus Christ defined the latter-day lovelessness as anomia, anti-law, antinomianism. Okay.
And he also said that was a sign of his coming.
Yeah, and so basically, this doctrine will suck the love out of everything. Okay, and we see that all around us. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In Psalms, there's a verse someplace, I've cited it many times, but I can't forget where, or remember where it is. The psalmist says, the psalmist, okay, I'll just, okay, let me try to find, I guess, another place here. Okay. We okay? Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So we got that out of the way, and apparently, okay, let me see here. So apparently we have an emergency.
A little family emergency, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, it is what it is. Okay. If we have a family emergency, we'll just wrap it up. And leave a lot of this material for next week. Okay. So basically, let's then focus on what we learned and observed from what we discussed about Andy's little discourse here that he had on Facebook that people can observe. Mm-hmm. Okay. We'll just focus up and kind of wrap up on that. I think that even though we have a family emergency here and we have to apparently go, basically, let's keep in mind the points that were made here, and people can review this. And I think that we've made some good points here, and we'll just keep the rest of this information for next week. Okay. Did you have any anything to add to it, or any way we could summarize it?
Well, I just want to encourage people to really go with what Andy ended
Mm-hmm.
in his last remark here.
Mm-hmm.
He said, believers are always addressed in justification terms.
Mm-hmm.
When you listen to a pastor,
right.
When you read an article online,
mm-hmm.
when you read a book by somebody,
mm-hmm.
Learn some discerning methods here. When they use pronouns like we and our, and learn to discern, are they talking about we in general, inclusive of believers and non-believers? Are they talking about believers?
Mm-hmm.
And then look in context.
Mm-hmm.
Are they saying that believers are in the same category as unbelievers that need to be re-justified all the time?
Right.
So really look carefully at what they are saying in the use of their grammar, and because words do mean things. And this is a valid point that Andy was making here. Believers are always addressed in justification terms. Believers need to be addressed in sanctification terms. They're already justified, and justification is a one-time event. Does not need to reoccur over and over again. It is a done deal, as you keep saying.
Right.
Believers need to be addressed by pastors, by authors, in terms of sanctification. How are you going to move forward in your kingdom living? Not stay at the foot of the cross for Christ to save you over and over again, re-justify you daily, keep you stagnated in your Christian life, in a sense, so that you cannot be fruitful, as he says. We're supposed to be fruitful as believers. By your fruits you will know who my children are, he says. By your fruit you will be known. Well, you can't be fruitful if you're not involved in sanctified living, and in kingdom living. So this is what I encourage believers to do, is as they learn discernment skills in their listening and in their reading. What is the teacher trying to convey? Are they talking in terms of justification or sanctification?
Well put. And we've got family emergencies and cats jumping up on the table and all kinds of craziness going on. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up for this week, and we'll hang on to this other material for next week and develop it a little bit. We had a lot going on today, and you know, this part of it that we shared about Andy was the best. And so we will continue on next week. We thank everybody for listening, and thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you again next week. God bless everyone.